Namaskar, welcome to the FDP on Emerging Issues in Higher Education and Research. This is our fifth day of the FDP we are organizing from the Department of Business Administration, PB Siddhartha College of Vijayawada. So today we are having with us a very distinguished professor of par excellence, Professor V.K. Shotriya of Delhi University, or University of Delhi. He's having multifaceted exposure, and his main specialization is creating human happiness. As the topic of today's discussion is higher education and society. As people are talking about the role of higher education in economic development or social harmony or human happiness, they are intertwined. That means sometimes there is a blame on higher education institutions also. We are not producing the right kind of citizens or not the type of the students who are employable. Such kind of criticism is there. But at the same time, higher education institutions are also blaming the societal norms or societal pressures or parental issues in shaping the careers of the youngsters of this country. But as India is claiming to be the Vishwaguru or Vishwabandhu, whatever, so India requires strong human developmental aspects. So on this occasion, as a parting concept of today's this 5-day FDP, we invited a very senior professor, Professor V.K. Shotriya sir. Actually, there is a criticism about higher education that the students who are like diamonds will be dimmed and pebbles are polished. That means some institutions are catering only to some extent, while the bright students they are not getting any challenging assignments while they are learning. So there are certain opinions also emerging. Some, for example, Elon Musk is talking. If you want to learn anything, you need not go to the institutions. You can go to the YouTube. But only for social interaction, you have to go to the universities or the colleges. So like such opinions are emerging from different parts of the society. So on this occasion, we are very doubly pleased to invite Professor V.K. Shotriya sir. Actually, my colleague, Dr. Durga Prasad, the Senior Assistant Professor of the Department of Business Administration, he will formally introduce our resource person today.
Sir, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Sir, I am very happy to introduce Sri Vijay Kumar Shotriya, working as Senior Professor in University of Delhi. So, Professor Shotriya is having 30 years of experience in teaching and actually involved in teaching, research and administration. Professor Shotriya is capable of doing many things. So, in academic line, in academic circles, he is popularly known as man of many things, sir. Sir, I have gone through your details about you, and I am feeling that you are man of everything, sir, not many things. Because I followed some of your presentations in the YouTubes.
Oh.
So, and not only that, first time in my 30 years journey, I held the lab called HAP Lab. We know about business lab or cath lab at the age of 60s. But I am surprising to see this word HAP Lab, sir. So really, you are having a passion. Really, I am very happy to see you, like you, the people who are working for the society, who are trying to give the best life, quality life, happy life. And totally your research is focusing on happiness and human well-being. Definitely it is more important, sir, to have the better society, and it is useful for the overall development of the nation, sir. So really I am very happy, sir, in this line. And coming to the academic line, Professor Shotriya received many awards and medals in his journey, and acting as a member of as an NAC convener, as a member of the UGC, ICSSR, Public Service Commission, and many more government departments and service organizations. Sir is not only a teacher, a policy maker, an administrator, as a counselor, a social worker, and is a good human being. So really, we are very fortunate, sir, to have you with us, and we are very happy to get some information from you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Sir, you can start your session. So thanks
Yeah.
a lot.
Thank you, the organizers, especially Professor Rajesh Jampala ji, and uh, the elaborative introduction given by Professor Durga Prasad ji. I don't know really whether I will uh, stand to the expectations of whatever has been said about me or not. But I was looking at the program, and uh, and the speakers who have spoken. I think Professor Rajesh, it is going to be the last day. Uh, is it today is the last day of this session, this FDP?
Last session.
Yeah, and he was talking about Friday FDP. So it is a 5 day FDP, which on, and in 5 days you started with one of our colleagues from Delhi University, Professor
Yes.
Sunaina, who is a
Yes.
dear friend from our department, and she has spoken to you. And interestingly, my former colleague, Professor Pati, also has given has
Oh,
spoken to the audience. So it is so nice being in the company of these people with whom I have worked. I had the privilege of working and learning from them. And then there is one Professor Jyoti Kumar ji who suggested my name for this. I'm thankful to him, and I think he was also one of the key
thank you.
speakers in these 5 days. He has been a great friend, and I think we have been sharing a lot of things common, and it has been great learning experience meeting him and interacting with him all through years, whether it is in Mizoram, it was in Shillong, or in Delhi, or in different other meetings. So thank you very much for giving me this wonderful opportunity. I am not going to have any presentation here, but when I was asked about a topic, that what am I going to talk about, uh, it is nice when Professor Rajesh was speaking in the beginning. I will also like to touch upon certain those issues, though I had not thought about them, but then since they have come up, I think this is as a person of a person who understands it and tries to have opinion on this. I would also express my opinion on that. I'm sure that there will be teachers across disciplines. So this interaction is not going to be concentrating only on one side of the discipline. Though most of the people who have spoken, I think they are from our discipline. Yet I think I'll try to make it more multidisciplinary, and maybe to have better thinking, because I personally believe that teachers cannot afford to outsource thinking. If a teacher starts outsourcing thinking, then then we become machines, and if a teacher is a machine, then you create machines, and machines cannot handle the problems of society. Machines can solve some of the transactional issues, but then machines can't really solve the problems of humanity, and for that you require human beings, and that is where you require teachers in physical form, and that's where education plays an important role for any country. More for a country like ours, which is a developing country, uh, more important for us is to focus on education. And in that series, a lot of events are organized across, and a lot of awareness programs, a lot of things are happening. They have been happening for last many decades. But in the wake of introduction of NEP 2020, it has taken another level, and people have started gathering a lot of data across, and browsing through the websites and seeing how things are happening in the world and what can we learn from them. So my discussion or my interaction with all of you would be more focusing on higher education and society, and then I take it further, the basically the road ahead, or the challenges, and what is the role of different stakeholders that are there in higher education. I may not give you much of data because I'm sure that most of these teachers might have that, and maybe some of the key figures, the important ones, I will just pinpoint because they are important uh, as a any teacher who is into higher education. Now, see, when we talk about education, not necessarily when it is higher education or a primary education or a middle education, the whole purpose of education is to facilitate learning, because learning is something which brings a permanent change in people's behavior. So the purpose of education is to facilitate learning, to allow a person to explore oneself. Education is nothing but a platform, a portal, which provides an opportunity to different individuals, different learners, to explore themselves. Where are they good? To find their own call, what they should be doing, what is their passion, and what they can take up as their career choice. If anywhere education does not allow a person to explore oneself, the whole purpose of education gets failed. So I think it is very important to ponder on this, that how education allows a person to explore oneself. A person studies all kind of disciplines when one goes to a school, and as you grow in a school, you start choosing, making choices as per your interest. You're interested in knowing history, you are interested in solving some problems, you are interested in dealing with numbers. You feel that that fascinates you. You feel that poetry fascinates you, and you can take it up as a career, so you try to put your heart into it. So the whole purpose of education is that you need to read all kind of disciplines and try to find a call, that way what is it that where my heart lies, where I can take things forward. And when people enter into higher education, in higher education you find that people are coming with with a prepared mind of studying commerce or management, or physics, chemistry, maths, or philosophy, or political science or literature, whatever. So it means people have already made those choices, and now they have to take that forward. And in that they restrict themselves, and within that discipline, whatever discipline they have chosen, they try to explore where is my call. So the whole idea of education is to provide you an opportunity to explore oneself. Education should make you a responsible citizen. It needs to empower people to take decisions about their lives. If after getting great education, after doing all the degrees and diplomas and all doctoral works, if a person does not have the ability to deal with oneself, I think there is a folly in education. If one does not have the ability to deal with society, deal with colleagues, deal with the boss, or deal with subordinates, deal with villagers, deal with relatives, I think the purpose of education is defeated. So education empowers you to take decisions. And then the question I will, when as we progress, I will talk about it, whether really we are doing it or not. So it makes responsible citizens. Education makes responsible citizens and empowers individuals to make life choices, empowers individuals to take decisions about themselves, to deal with society, deal with people, deal with with anybody, with parents, with, I mean, that's part of education. And that's where we say that, individual values, they come, the source of values, two major sources of values. One is through the family or the parents in a house, and the second is to teachers. So as an individual grows, the first education the individual gets it at home, and then goes to school, college, university, and interacts with teachers, and it is the responsibility of the teachers to imbibe those values, whatever values teacher thinks, to the individuals, to the students, not just through teaching in the classroom, but through one's behavior, one's temperament, one's attitude. And that is something which is very, very important. Another purpose of education is also to create opportunities, or we say that to strengthen social progress, what we were and what we are and what we will be. I think all the three are important. You cannot isolate yourself from your past, and sitting in present, it is not that you do not need to think about tomorrow. Though you live in present and enjoy your present and try to put your best foot forward in the present time, yet you need to think about tomorrow. I always feel that, I think, apart from enjoying your today, you need to think about tomorrow, if not of a longer duration, but at least for tomorrow. And that is where we keep talking about psychological capital, where we say that a person has to have hope. Otherwise, we say this, people do not want to interact with people who are hopeless people. So when people have hope, hope is always future oriented. When people have aspiration, aspiration is always future oriented. When people have optimism, optimism is always future oriented. When people have resilience, resilience is based on your past, but you are looking forward. So there is a hero concept, hope, efficacy, which reflects confidence, and then comes resilience, and then come optimism. So person has this psychological capital in order to deal with all kind of conditions and individuals. So the purpose of education is not to make you market ready. That was the intent with which I wanted to tell you what exactly education stands for. Education does not stand for making people market ready or preparing them for job market. And sadly, in many of the institutions today, whether they are government institutions or private institutions, we have moved away from these ideals of education or the purpose of education, and we have become more market oriented. And that's where the problems are erupting, especially that I think Professor Rajesh was mentioning in the beginning. Okay, so the cause of problem is that we want to respond to market orientation. Okay, now I will tell you how it is possible, and how we need to relook at the whole model of just responding to market forces, or by making people able to take a call on themselves. Now, so with this premise of understanding of education, this is what is my understanding of education. Okay, and with this understanding of education, I would like to discuss different aspects of it and try to voice out my concern. I do not have any PowerPoint presentation here, but as people come forward, I will keep on responding to them. And someone is talking about employability aspects, but I tell you, it is not just employability. This is I will come to that. Okay, so I'll good that someone is interacting on that. Okay, and this matrix system, when we move from subjectivity to objectivity, okay, this is where things get reduced. And You might have, I don't know whether how many of you know about it or not. There are institutions where there are no exams. We need to learn from them and see how we can take things forward. Okay, I'll talk about that a little later. Okay, so when we look at whole domain of higher education, I look at it in uh, from three different perspectives. One is from the perspective of an individual, and when we talk about individual, we talk about teachers and students. So one side of it is individuals, another side of it is processes. Processes are more on the kind of pedagogy that you follow, the process of teaching, research, or whatever. So that's another way. And that's one more party. And the third one is institutions. Now, institutions means like state, the government, institutions like the NGOs or the charity organizations which have started great educational institutions in the past, and they are still there and they are surviving well. There are universities and colleges, or maybe even I think in the modern day we could talk about education entrepreneurs, people who want to experiment uh, uh, in education and try to make money out of education. So these are also a kind of institutions. So there are three components. One is individuals, where we talk about teachers and students. Second is the process, how we are delivering, what are we teaching, content. And the third is the institutions. Institutions means is the government, the state government or the central government, or different agencies, or the promoters of institutions, or the colleges or universities. Now you see, if we I think many of you who are attending this session would agree that when we look at our parents, and when our parents tell us that in their time, even if a person was class 12, had more ability as compared to a person who is class 12 today. Okay, I'm sure that many of us keep hearing about it. At least I have experienced this. So what is happening over time? There is more focus on obtaining degrees and diplomas rather than developing the ability or the understanding. So what is happening with that? The value of education is going down. Okay, so people have more degrees, less ability. Okay, and yes, when I'm saying it, I need not generalize it to all people, to everybody, but I'm giving you a general overview that generally we observe this. Like, when naturally we are all biased towards our own times when we have grown. So when we grew up at that time, the kind of grades people used to get, getting first division itself was very difficult. Today, nobody really looks at first division. They say that how close you are to 100%, if you are 98%, 90%, or whatever. Another way of looking at the devaluation of education is that you find that if a job of a gangman in Indian Railways is advertised, you find even the people who have PhDs that they are applying. There are evidences where you find a government for government job of a peon. You find people who have even MTech degree are applying for that. This is a kind of devaluation. It means a person thinks oneself worthy of that. This is one way of looking at the individual when I'm talking about. So, if really one wanted to do that kind of job, one could have very well developed that ability at that level. Or maybe this was the responsibility of teachers also. Or maybe you can take it further and say that this was also by the state, that why there is so much of unemployment, and so many people are getting so many degrees but they are not getting jobs. A NASCOM study says that there is more problem of employability, where 90% of engineers, they said, that were unemployable. It means we are producing engineers. There are engineers, but they're not really employable. They don't have the ability which you expect from an engineer. So the purpose of education, of developing understanding, developing, making a better citizen, or giving a call, I think somewhere there is a defeat of that very purpose, and that is where the role of a teacher becomes challenging. Now, when we look at whole of higher education, I'm sure in some of the sessions, some teachers, some of the people must have already told you. When it comes to India, in higher education, we have an allocation of something like between 4 to 5%, 4.6% to be precise. Okay, that is the responsibility of the state. Now, where is the focus of the state? Whether state prioritizes education over other domains, and I need not speak much on how different governments, whether it's a state government or the central government, where does education fall in their list of priority? A lot of changes are taking place over the years. In last 2 decades, we have seen it more. Last education policy 1986, and now after around 34 years we made another education policy, which opens a lot of rooms for exploration and gives opportunity for individuals to explore themselves and whatever they want to pursue, whether institutions are creating that kind of ecosystem in order to give them the kind of choices that they are making. So for a country like ours, which is a developing nation, the allocation out of GDP should be at least 6 to 7%, which is between 4 to 5%. And the major reason which I personally feel is because government is more into privatizing education, and finding that spending on education is not reaping them good fruits. Somewhere I think this belief has gone in. Yet through different kind of policies, government and the people who are intervening in government is drafting and redrafting, bringing something or the other new things. Okay, so a developing nation like ours should have more allocation. When we say should have more allocation, what does it mean? States, when I say state, does not necessarily mean a particular state, but it as a government, any government, education has to fall under their agenda, in their priority. In last 10 years, we had few education ministers, especially the last education minister. See, if we look at the NDA government, 2014, we had Smriti Irani, who kept on saying that we will increase the allocation to 6%. Then came Prakash Javadekar, who also kept on talking about it. And even Mr. Dharmendra Pradhan has been saying that we should increase it and take it to 6%. Okay, what does it really mean? It means that the government needs to concentrate more on education and invest or fund different educational activities of the government institutions. Okay, and somewhere when they are under this belief that expenditure on education or the investment on education is not reaping them good fruit, they are keeping it aside, and maybe, as we see that they are prioritizing other sectors. Yes, I think we require good infrastructure, so infrastructure is very, very important. Physical infrastructure is very, very important. But I tell you, in order to develop good physical infrastructure, you require good human infrastructure. If human infrastructure is weak, that would disturb the physical infrastructure. So if we prioritize, that would be great. Then I have another view. If I look at the gross enrollment ratio in higher education, and we keep talking about increasing gross enrollment ratio, we have something like 27 to 28% gross enrollment ratio, as against around 39% in the world. So there is a scope of increasing it. But I have a little different take on this, especially for ourselves, that higher education should not be a mass education. Not that everybody has to come to higher education. People come to higher education because many of them do not see what they want to do till their entry into higher education. So they get into higher education in order to explore themselves. So if people want to earn their living after class, after I mean just before getting into higher education, they can develop their skills and be a good citizen for the nation, rather than coming to higher education. And as they start leading life, they can upgrade themselves and maybe get education, as it used to happen in many of the countries. So higher education should be a choice, it should not be a force. And what we find, that the kind of environment that we see all around, people think that even graduation is not enough. They need to, after doing graduation, they need to specialize. A person studies up to class 12, does a great job, spends a lot of efforts on preparing for the IITs, and spends on coachings, and then go become doctor or become engineer. And during 4 years of their medical, or 4 5 years of medical, or 4 years of engineering, person realizes that he was not meant for engineering. His call was something different. So he starts exploring something else. So the kind of investment that state makes in the person, that investment somehow does not repay back in the way that you seek that it should. And I also have observed that especially in the domain of this technical education, or engineering education, students who spend day and night preparing for entrance exams, and they live with books, they eat with books, they throughout their days they are with the books. So the moment they get into job, the most hated thing is the books. They say, no, I have studied enough, now I need to enjoy my life. So excess of everything is bad. There should be an organic growth, there should be a natural flow. And somehow I think we haven't been able to, especially this has become more means darker in last 3 4 decades, because of the kind of competition people have, and the kind of since our aspirational levels are high, and there is as I told you in the beginning, there is more on market orientation. You're more looking at the at the packages, and you think that, oh, after doing engineering you get a better package, and your neighbor's son has got a better package, your relatives, your brothers or cousins or people are getting better package, and without looking at the ability of the person, ability of the student, the person is getting into this trap, and that is, I think, has to be looked at. So what is important? Important is the two things that I look at: intent and content. What is the intent of the system, intent of the education, intent of the teachers, intent of the student, and what kind of content we are delivering? So the intent, if the intent is to produce employees or to produce workers, that's what our education system, when we inherited this education system, or our education system was made of, where there are good interventions happening now, where we are not really focusing more on just creating employees or workers. So we need to appreciate the efforts of the government. So when we got independence, and after that, there was more focus on producing employees and workers, not people who could think. So they were working for the masters. Okay, so that was the intent. With that intent, syllabus or the teaching process was designed. So you had a syllabus, you go deliver the class and uh, give education, and the person applies for different kind of job and gets the job. So the intent was to make people ready to get employment. And maybe I think someone said in the beginning that we are still talking about employability, or we were creating factory workers, and that was driving the content. What was that? Manifestation of rote learning, more to do with obedience, following orders. So there is a boss will say you will have to, so you work in subordination. That I'm talking about the masses, basically. The intent was to give them degrees and diplomas, and that created a fight between eligibility and ability, which led us to talk about employment and employability, or we say literate versus educated person. So people were they're literate, they know how to solve the problem, they just solved it, but what is behind it and what will happen after that, that is not their concern. So this fight between ability and eligibility, we are still having that conflict. So people are eligible, but they are not able. That's where we say people are they have the degree, but they're not employable. So there is a gap. And why this gap is? Because people have not developed that understanding of the subject. Rather, their more focus is on how to obtain better marks and get the degree. So instead of understanding the subject and developing ability of the discipline, person is using tricks and tips in order to clear exam. So exam will get cleared. That is where we say that they have a approach which is a very transactional approach. So transactional approach is good when you have to get something done through machine. But wherever there is human intervention, transactional approach does not means it does it is not it does not stand for longer duration. It can get the work done, but it does not prepare how this work can be looked from different perspectives in the times to come. And if the similar kind of problem comes in future, maybe you will have to have different kind of tools. So there you will say this person cannot do, because the person does not know that tool. Person knows just one set of tools. Whether it is individuals or organizations, we have seen that if you do not adapt with time, you are obsolete. So teach this applies on teachers as well. So if the intent is to make students understand, your teaching approach would be different. Your teaching has to be different. But if the intent is to make students eligible, to give them a degree, then naturally your intent would be different. And that's what we have been following. When we inherited our system, the content was developed from the premise of the Western practices. So whatever we learn from the Western practices, Western world, we try to replicate it. So there was a gap between how people saw the world and how they were taught about the world. And that became more, especially when you look at the end of the 20th century. So people started isolating themselves from what they are reading in the book and what is the real problem. And that's where the problem of unemployability came up. And we see now, of course, whatever I'm talking about journal. So there were exceptional institutions where things were a little different. But what we see now, with the kind of initiatives and new education policy, you are trying to relook at it, okay, and then see how things can be improved and how people can make better choices rather than forcing your choices on them. So we learned more from the Western practices. Now, I think this initiative of developing literature from Indian subcontinent and teaching them in vernacular language, I think this is a great initiative. And we need to develop that content from around ourselves, so that there is connectivity of the content and the delivery. Of course, that time the intention was to uproot us from our roots. So we require now, better rooting, better grounding. And instead of packaging the courses from the point of view of employability, I think we need to, or employment as such, we need to more look at the kind of ability that we are developing and the kind of understanding we are developing. Whatever course that you teach to a student as a course might become irrelevant after 10 years. But during the course of study, if you have been able to inculcate a sense of attitude in the students to respond to the call of time, I think you have done your job. And that's the challenge for teachers. So apart from whatever is there, whatever content you are teaching to students, you need to also teach them the ways in which they can adapt to time. They can develop that kind of attitude to respond to call of time. and that is how they become better individuals. And that's the real education. Real education is not gained through rote learning. We keep talking about it these days when we see lot of information, lot of information. And we move, from data to information, information to knowledge, knowledge to wisdom. So what exact? So you have more information but less of knowledge. Knowledge is why things are happening, and information is what is happening. Now, if I take some data and leave it to the students and tell them that this is how things are, I make PPT out of the textbook and then take it to the class and teach them that this is how it is. I'm just behaving, a teacher is just behaving like a courier agent. Teachers are not courier agents. The intent of a teacher has to change. Teacher is not a courier agent that carries something from the books and delivers to the students. In the modern day time, students can do this on themselves. They have a lot of sources of getting this information. You need to tell them why things are the way they are. And that's where you churn information and convert it into knowledge. That is where a role of a teacher becomes important. We keep talking about society. I said that we will be talking about higher education and society. The moment we talk about society, the most important thing that comes to our mind, what makes a society, is interdependence. It is the interdependence that makes society. A student depends on teacher, teacher depends on a student. A businessman depends on customers, customers depend on businessmen. Employees depend on employer, employer depends on employee. So there is an interdependence, and this interdependence creates society. Education cannot isolate itself from society. Education has the society provides you a context, and from that context, with the intent of making or making students who are able to take their decisions of life, you will develop the content. You will go to class. Students, especially when I'm talking about higher education. So in higher education, students have to have thinking. And before we say that students have to have thinking, I think more important is that teachers also start thinking. So when we say teachers have to start thinking, how teachers would think? Teachers have to spend a lot of time in reading and thinking and writing, so that they are able to organize their thoughts. They are able to add more knowledge and give new perspective. It's not just whatever is existing, you try to take it and package it and take it to the students. No, you need to create new knowledge, and that's a challenge before a teacher. When we keep talking about market orientation, and we say that for a country, for every country, it is, what is more important is wealth. Yes, of course it is important. Okay, when we talk about, when we say that we are a poor nation or a developing nation or a developed nation, the basic premise of saying this is, how wealthy are you? And when we say wealthy, well, we talk about GDP. How have you grown your GDP? So if GDP is growing, it means there is wealth creation. 300 years, ever since Adam Smith wrote The Wealth of Nations, where he talks about human effort, where he says that human effort is the most important wealth for any nation. And when we say human effort, for a teacher, teacher's effort is to educate the students, and we need to do our best, and that's important. So wealth creation is important, because in order to uh, lead life, when I started, I told you that the whole purpose of education, and someone was saying about employability. you know the moment you talk about these two relationship, I also feel, yeah, I think in order to survive you require money, and there are a lot of researches on that without wealth, countries cannot survive. Wealth creation is important, and wealth creation is the result of human effort. And human effort, the purpose of education is that you are able to find your passion as to where you are going to put efforts. Once that is done, all your efforts will reap good fruit. That's very simple. Getting it? So that's how I think we need to look at. So when we say that there is interdependence, this interdependence has to be reflected through the content that we are developing, taking it to the students, and the process I told you in the beginning, the teaching process. Sadly, these days, when you interact with teachers, when I interact with teachers, and when we ask, of course, again, exceptions aside, that what is it that you have read latest in last 1 month, and teachers fumble. Teachers say, oh, they just keep looking here and there and say, talk about more about the subject and maybe the textbook that they are going to teach. Now, if you are just reading what students are reading, you are not really adding value. A teacher has to read much more than a student, and much beyond the literature, which is much beyond the reach of a student. And then only you can give some new perspective to the students. And that's how higher education will become better. That's how students will be able to make better life choices. Very, very important. We need to learn how to respect the difference, respect the student, respect students dissenting from your own views. And that will happen only when there is an interaction in the classroom. And many times we see that a teacher goes to the class with a PPT and starts reading from a PPT and finishes the class without any interaction in the room. And this is happening across north, south, east, west, anywhere you go. This way, you are delivering the classes, you are finishing the syllabus, everything you are doing, but you are not really fulfilling the purpose of education. That's where teacher's role becomes very, 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 very important. We keep blaming the governments. It's very easy to blame the government, but I think it is more important to own up the responsibility. Teachers play a role of a catalyst. The kind of living condition a teacher used to have 20 years back and now, there is a huge difference. We keep on saying that governments are, state is not, system is bad, this, that. Within these constraints and confines, are you really doing justice to the students when you are going to take class? That I find is a more important question, rather than just talking about government system and saying that it is all the system which is spoiling everything. We only make the system. It is only teachers who are making the system. Some of us only are making the system. And that system is more that is more through the experiences of the policymakers. I don't need to get into the politics of policies, but what I personally feel, many times, instead of owning up the responsibility, we pass the buck to the government policies and the state, and say that because of this system, things are not happening. There are very good teachers even today, every part of the country, but the only thing is that the number of them are is reducing, and more because there is more market orientation, more because we are living in a very, very materialistic world, more because people want better physical life, more because we are driven by international forces, and we always find ourselves, we compare ki things are much better there, and that's how uh, uh, we are not able to deliver. So I think we need to have an approach. Teachers have to have an approach where they believe that students do not need to carry the degree, but they need to hold the degree. When they hold the degree, a sense of ownership comes. And this sense of ownership comes through the ability, through better understanding. And that would happen only when teacher is well versed with the subject and teacher is able to leave behind lot of things in the minds of students to think and explore. The job of a teacher is not just to finish the syllabus or to cover the syllabus. The job of a teacher is to uncover the syllabus. The more teacher uncovers the syllabus, the more students learn, and learning brings permanent change in the learner's behavior. That's where learning becomes important. When we talk about the intent again of the institutions intent has to transform from job provider to make people to take the call, and maybe to create more opportunities for others. Rather, I said job provider, job seekers. So people, the learners do not necessarily be only job seekers, they could become job providers. And with the NEP 2020, where you are allowing people to take an exit and maybe continue the degree later on to experiment, this is a very, very good thing. Some of my friends will know that this is something which I used to talk about around 12, 13, 14 years back. I used to say that, if a student is, suppose if a student takes admission into master's program, and after one semester, students feel that, oh, I'm at a wrong place, I don't want to continue this. So if person takes the exit, he takes the exit without anything in his hand. So even if a person gets an exit after one semester, if we could give him some certificate that he has read these modules and of this, it would have been much better. But we didn't have that system earlier. If a student after 1 year or if MCOM leaves MCOM, okay, and says that no, I'm at a wrong place, he doesn't carry anything with himself. He doesn't have any degree. Though he has learning, but he cannot write anywhere that whatever he has studied. So thank God that now in undergrad level, if you are doing 1 year, you can take an exit. After 2 years, you can take an exit, and then you have a transfer of credit system. This open system allows people to explore. Yes, there are teething problems when we are implementing NEP, and these problems will be there for a few more years. But I'm sure, as an optimist, I feel that things are going to take shape for better in the times to follow. When there will be, because at present we have infrastructure problem, we have other things related. We have to have this system. We have to first learn and grow with this system for 4 or 5 years, and then we can say that we have reached to a level where students are really able to enjoy whatever they are choosing. Okay, so it when we talk about an intent of a teacher, if a intent of a teacher is to grow in career and become an administrator, then teachers focus is very different. Sadly, many of the people of my tribe who are into teaching, they are resolving to this, and that's why teaching is suffering. So people have to see whether as a teacher, whether they recognize themselves as a teacher or they want to move as fast as they can to the administration. That is something I think we need to ponder on. As teachers, this is our responsibility. How do we identify ourselves? Well, what does give us satisfaction? And if we have something in mind, yes, I think people should come to administration and take the call rather than serving the masters. You need to have your own thinking and to take things forward and have ability to take risk. We need to have an attitude which is more to do with the what you call memorizing, like Kahneman used to talk about memorizing self and remembering self. There is more to do with experiencing self. So we need to have better experiencing self, and better experiencing self for teachers will come only when you yourself start spending time on thinking. And you can think only when you read, you relate, and then culminate something new and write it, share it with people. I get uh, this reminded of one of the saying which I keep telling this to my students, and I think in many of the programs, if people have attended, they will also must have heard it from me. Toffler said that uh, he was writing it in 1970s. Uh, he was talking about the future shock. He said that the learners of the 21st century will not be those who have never been to schools. They are going to be those who have stopped learning, relearning, and unlearning. Learning, relearning, and unlearning is more important than the degrees and certificates and all that. But yes, if a person has spent something somewhere, yes, I think if that can also have some paper value, it would be great. So teachers have to, we need to learn. Teachers have to learn a lot, and they have to take this forward to their students to develop that attitude in their students, so that they are able to respond to the call of time accordingly. As I told, that higher education should not be the choice, but within higher education, what a person is going to choose should be a choice. If we have that kind of attitude, we can concentrate more and do better. Overall, uh, if we keep on pondering on um, uh, whether uh, we can really, as teachers, because I'm a teacher, I just look at it from a teacher's perspective, teacher's role as a catalyst. If we are able to empower our students to take the call of time and then take decisions about themselves, I think we have done a great job. And that, as a teacher in higher education, that's the responsibility of each one of us. Okay, I think we can open now for some questions, and as questions and interaction happen, I will also talk little bit, and maybe then I will wind up with few more thoughts towards the end.
Yes, sir. Actually, your talk is very enriching, and you touched about all the aspects of higher education with relevance to society.
Hello. Uh, yes, someone is asking, is there any chance that 6% of GDP is allocated to higher education? Chance, I mean, yeah, we should have that hope, and we should keep on saying this, but that can happen only when uh, government is committed to it. Government says, emphasizes more on education through the state machinery. Okay, so then only it is possible. Otherwise, I don't think that it is just a matter of putting it 6%, but there has to be a conscious priority of education in the mind of the government. Okay, so when it comes to the content, yes, I think we do see that a lot of changes have taken place, but those changes have to also further translate through the allocation of funds, because many universities are falling short of funds. Many departments in the universities, the traditional university system, find it difficult to operate. And that's where I think if funding is more, there will be better research. You see, in whole of my discussion, I did not touch upon research. Research is important, is very, very important. But what I personally feel is that the focus on teaching initially, to make people responsible, and to choose what kind of research they should do, where should they publish. I'm sure that some of my friends must have already talked to you about that. So research is important component, but today when we look at government's government funding on core research, especially through UGC and other projects, is is reducing, or maybe they are shifting to other areas. So that is where also I think they need to look at. Yeah, Professor Jyoti Kumar, it may be better to provide our observation instead of confining to extending the greetings. Yes, absolutely. Yes. Yeah. Is it spending quality time on studies rather than quantity of time is good to practice? Yes, but quality time of course is important, but the problem is that even that time that a teacher should be spending for preparation or reading new literature, I find that these days people do not spend much of their effort in in developing themselves. Otherwise, once you start enjoying teaching, it is something, it's a blessing. It's really a blessing that we become part of the lives of our students, and we get uh, students who are listening to us, and they are following our footpaths. So that's very, very important. Education need to got for the sake of education, not only as means of job in mind. Education and employment both need to be looked differently. Yeah, I think this is what I was talking about. I started with it, that that the whole purpose of education is not to make people ready for just the market. We need to create different kind of markets rather than responding to market forces. Okay, so market capitalism is taking us towards that. So today there is a businessman who starts an university and says, yeah, I think I engineering is in demand, so I will produce engineers, and tomorrow if there is demand of something else, he will switch over to that. This approach is not a good approach. Okay.
Sir, actually, but most of the rankings based on metrics, but metrics are skewed towards employability aspects only. So in
Yeah.
that context, every education institution is striving for getting job placements. That is the criteria. So we
Professor
are,
Jampala, you
yes, sir.
see, if a person is able, jobs will come. So if jobs is primary, if your focus is only job, if your focus is ability, jobs will come to you. If your focus is job, then job will come to you, but ability will not be there, and that is where people will suffer. Exceptionally, we also see today within this system, that there are
Yes.
students who are getting more jobs, they are getting more offers, and there are students who don't get even a single offer. What does it mean? That there are some people who are able and there are some people who are not able. Here, I think I missed that point. Now I get reminded of what you had made, that there are students who are very good, so they are getting very good institutions, but there are average students or lower students who are not getting mentoring, and that is where role of teacher becomes more important. Okay, so teachers have to, that is where I was telling you again and again, teachers role is not just to cover the syllabus. Teachers have to spend more time interacting with the students and mentoring them, trying to find out where are they good, and mentor them what they should be doing, how they should be learning, what are their problems, how can you support them through the system. I think that is more important, and I am very, very bullish on Indian talent. I find the huge talent lies in the periphery of the big cities. You find that in the rural areas or in the tier 2 cities, tier 3 cities, there is huge talent. In the absence of proper mentoring, these people are not able to grow better. And that is where the colleges and the institutions where these students are studying, they need to provide that kind of ecosystem where they get better mentoring, and then you will find that they will bring change in society. uh, I feel that when you are looking at entrepreneurs, today's entrepreneurs, many of them are coming from tier 2 cities. Okay, because they have fire in their belly. Once you get fire in your belly, you will try to perform, and this fire has to be you know built from through the teachers. There is some connectivity issue, is it? All matrices are not skewed through employability. Jobber, employee, professional. Yeah, there is some problem in connectivity, Professor Jampala, from your side.
పనికి ఫోన్ చేసి చేశారు.
You see, I think when I was telling about wealth creation, uh, across world, we find there is a support in the data through different kind of researches, as well as in the meta-analysis of lot of works, that money plays a very important role. Okay, money is a greatest motivator, one of the greatest motivators. So in order to survive also, money is required. But it is not that just money is required. There is Easterlin paradox, which talks about relationship of money with happiness. So the role of money start deteriorating after fulfilling basic needs. And this paradox, if you look at the population in China, or you look at population in other parts of the world, it has been proven that this is how things are. Hello. Hello. Yes, Professor Rajesh, are you there?
అయిపోయిందా ఉందా?
ఉంది సార్ క్వశ్చన్స్ అడుగుతున్నారు సార్.
అదే
Yes.
క్వశ్చన్లు ఉన్నాయి.
Is there some problem?
అదే ఎంతవరకు వచ్చింది?
వాయిస్ సార్ క్వశ్చన్స్ అయిపోయాయి సార్ యాక్చువల్లీ.
ఆపేసిందా? నేను అడిగేది ఏంటంటే క్వశ్చన్లు అడగడం అయిపోయిందా?
అయిపోయింది
మాట్లాడాలంటే
మాట్లాడచ్చు.
Sir, I think all the questions are done with.
Yeah. So let me just wind it up then. Maybe I would need maybe 2, 3, 4 minutes. I was thinking maybe as people respond, then I'll take that up. But whatever I have discussed today,
Yes,
we
sir.
need.
Actually, all the questions are answered, and we are very much delighted with your talk. All the participants are actively engaged with the session. On behalf of Department of Business Administration, PV Siddhartha College of Arts and Science, we profusely thank Professor Shrotriya Saab for a thought-provoking session. Actually, a professor should think and speak, and not only he has done that, but he also made all the participants to think about the societal impact or higher education, and at the same time, higher education contribution to the society. As higher education is fraught with many challenges, people like Shrotriya Sir has to add value with his thinking, thought process. As the higher education is nowadays, should make the lower order thinking to the higher order thinking, not only for the faculty but for the students also. When we think and speak, or when we think and understand, then that will be more value addition. As the country is progressing to the next level, the contribution of higher education institutions is enormous. So on this occasion, I thank Professor Shrotriya Saab for sparing his valuable time and insights with us. With this, we once again thank all the participants for participating in this particular 5-day FDP on emerging issues in higher education and research. With this, we are concluding the 5-day FDP, and I request all the participants to check your WhatsApp group for the feedback. We are posting the feedback link in the WhatsApp group, so you can respond, and we look forward to your valuable suggestions. So with this, I once again profusely thank our honorable speaker, Professor Shrotriya Saab, for his engaging session today. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, Professor Jampala.
Thank you, sir. We are signing off the session, sir. Thank you very much. Live off.